Welcome to this week's Rider Support.
This week we're going to talk about riding in a crosswind, how you position yourself ideally, a perfect post-training routine. But first, 6 mistakes that all beginner cyclists must avoid. Sarah?
Anthony, let's go straight in because we have a lot of questions today. I'm not even sure we're going to get through them all. Anthony, what are the main habits that you think beginner cyclists should avoid?
There's loads.
We do get this question in a lot.
Yeah.
So
I think I'd add in top of the list after my conversation with Phil Burt last day, who's the Ineos physio, around bike fit and the gains you can make on bike fit. Stuff like, you know, I would have thought for a long time was just normal, like my hands getting a little bit numb towards the end of the ride. That's all very avoidable if you have good bike fit. Also, the move from 172 to 165 crank seems to be giving most people like 15 to 20 watts extra. So number one, I would say, is neglecting bike fit. And number two, which you haven't been a victim of this so much since you started cycling, because you kind of have the benefit of my years of cycling and, you know, working with coach off the bat. Like, even, you know, I'm your third or fourth coach you've had since you started cycling. It's riding every session at the same speed. Because a lot of people come into cycling and they are, rightly so, feel like, okay, if I only have an hour available, I need to go out and train as hard as I can for an hour. And you end up defaulting into riding kind of high zone 2, zone 3, and then you just get the set of physiological adaptations associated with riding in that zone, and you miss the adaptations of riding in all the other zones. How many's that? 2?
Yep.
Not watching cycling, I think, is a huge one that people are sleeping on. You learn so much from watching cycling, whether you're a racer, whether you're doing sportifs or just club runs. Watching bike racing really teaches you an awful lot about bike racing. I know it sounds obvious, but it really does. It teaches, the tactics are hard. You're still getting them.
I think it's changed a lot now in the last couple of years because you don't really have any excuse. When I started watching cycling years ago, myself and my mum used to try and watch the Ross, which was televised, the race that you've done a few times, Ireland's kind of premier week-long race. We used to try and watch that. We used to try and watch the Tour de France, and we hadn't a notion about what was going on. We were like, what is happening at the front? What's happening at the back? Don't understand this at all. But now, because we have so much access to YouTube, there's a zillion creators out there that will literally break down a race. Why is Caleb Ewing sprinting like this? Why did he wait to go until this at this point? So you can actually become really informed about racing. I was lucky enough I had you there explaining it to me. I asked about 100 million stupid questions. And can I say, there's nothing as nice as coming in from a Saturday spin or a Sunday spin, having your shower and just sitting down in front of the race.
Especially the classics are about to roll around. And I think are we talking about doing a little watch party for the classics?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll maybe announce something on that soon.
We'll let everyone know about that soon. Yeah. So we'll get together and watch it together.
Okay, so that's 3. 4, I think, it is taking cycling too serious, too fast. And I spoke about this in a podcast recently, where cycling is it's this like thing that there's no finish line. You can keep putting more focus into it. It will ruin your personal life. It'll ruin your relationships. It'll ruin your job. It'll ruin all your prospects if you let it. There's no finish line. You can keep getting more and more serious, pumping more and more time into it, pumping more and more finances into it. And at a point that makes sense. If you're trying to make the junction from Conti or the U23 Devo team to World Tour, it makes sense that you upend your whole life to try and make this, because there's a huge financial gain on the far end if you do make it. If you're starting out and you're like a Cat 2 rider and you're pulling your whole life apart for bike racing, you need to pause and reflect and think, what am I actually doing here? Like, we've seen quite a few lads coming through the club now at this point, and, you know, everyone, I'm like the cynical owl lad because I've seen it so many times before now. But you're like, take a breath and calm down. I know you have these crazy aspirations that you want to go World Tour, but just take a breath and calm down and put in an appropriate amount of attention, detail, love for the level you're at. Now, once you get to the next level, you can step up the attention, the detail, and the love. But going around and talking about altitude training camps when you're a Cat 4 and looking for marginal gains, it's not the thing. It's not the roadblock for you in terms of your development. It's learning how to handle the bike. It's learning how to dress properly, eat properly, all the stuff that goes into le métier and being a bike rider.
I love that turn of phrase, le métier. It's like the apprenticeship, isn't it? It's you cannot go from an apprenticeship. You turn up day one in your new plumbing or electrician apprenticeship. You don't go from there to wiring a full house. Like there's a whole process, you would like to think, between there and by the time you graduate. And cycling really has that. There's definite steps that you need to take along the way.
Ignoring hydration and nutrition. I think specifically if you're coming into the sport and you're trying to lose a little bit of weight, what I mean by ignoring nutrition is not eating at the right times. Like you should be eating all through your bike ride and fueling pre-bike ride and fueling the night before for the bike ride. But instead, you eat nothing on the bike ride, don't fuel before, don't fuel the night before, and then you just binge out at some random time on calories, like after the bike ride, because you feel like I quote unquote earned it. So you have the 16-inch pizza the evening after your 100 miler on a Sunday, and now you're after taking in 4,500 calories on a Sunday evening, when you needed those calories Saturday evening to fuel for the Sunday session, and then Monday you're sitting in an office job all day and that carbohydrate is just getting converted into fat and you're gaining weight and you're wondering week after week why you keep getting heavier even though you're cycling every week.
It's crazy, isn't it? There's still so many people out there that don't fuel for their rides. And, we've had loads of nutritionists on the podcast. It really can be simple enough, exactly as you outlined. I think for me the biggest take is eating on the ride. Of course fueling before is really, really important on the night before, but on the ride there's so many people out there who don't have a jelly, don't have a gel, eat absolutely nothing on the spin.
A singular gel.
And it and it completely just derails their whole day. They feel absolutely terrible. They might get through the spin, but that has a massive knock-on effect. As you said, Anthony, ruins their whole day after. They're probably starving. They're reaching for the takeaway menu. So fueling on the ride is just going to increase your enjoyment as a newbie with cycling a millionfold.
Okay,
trust me.
My last newbie one is, and you mightn't expect this one, it's just death gripping the handlebars.
Yeah.
Where I see a lot of talk on spins about speed wobbles and things like this, and this only happens when you're really nervous on the bike. And when you're nervous on the bike, we have a question later on about crosswinds, and it's the same thing. When you're gripping the bars so tight and your arms are so locked out, all that shock from the road is just transferring up. Like your elbows are your shock absorbers. When you're loose and you're free, you can just absorb that shock and you look fluid on the bike, but you also handle much better. But I see this problem with newbies a lot on descents, where they're so worried about the speed on the descent. They grip the bars so tight, lock out the elbows, and that transfers all the way through their body and into the bike. And you actually see speed wobbles, which can be super, super dangerous, like a high crash risk in these speed wobbles, by just gripping the bars way too hard.
Yeah, it's just that tension that you have in your hands. I did as well. I mean, when I first started cycling, I was getting pains in my hands from gripping so tightly. But that's not to say have your hands like really blasé on top of the hoods. Like, do hold your handlebars, but just be kind of mindful of how the tension that's going through your body.
Yeah, but like you can grip the bars. Like I feel like gripping the bars is more technique than it is aggression. Like you just need to have your thumbs properly wrapped around the bar, so if you do hit a pothole, your hands won't just slide off. Like I remember doing Ross Moon with one of my teammates, Passo, years ago, and he just had his hands on the top of the bars and he hit a pothole. Honestly, like 100 people went down in the crash. There was broken, but it was like a scene out of Vietnam. There was broken bikes, lads screaming, helicopters crashing. It was like lethal. But
Black Hawk Down.
All because he didn't just wrap his thumbs.
Yeah, it's one thing that you always say to me if we're coming. if we're out on gravel, but if we're on a road and the surface is getting really rough, you're like, oh, make sure you lock your thumbs. So I think that's a really, really good tip. Okay, they're all amazing tips.
6. Transform your indoor cycling with Rouvy, the platform that brings real-world routes and augmented reality to your training. Whether you're preparing for a big event or you're just looking to explore, Rouvy lets you experience legendary rides like Alpe and Passo de Stelvio from the comfort of your home. Rouvy's unique augmented reality technology uses real-life video and GPS data to create the most realistic cycling experience available. You'll feel every climb, descent and turn with precise terrain replication, giving you an authentic outdoor ride indoors. Plus, with AR elements like avatars and banners, the ride really feels totally immersive and interactive. With over 1,500 routes and 25,000 kilometers, the world's most iconic cycling destinations, Rouvy is perfect for cyclists of all levels. Whether you want to enjoy scenic routes, participate in group rides, or push your limits with advanced training plans, Rouvy has you covered. Rouvy also offers flexible pricing, allowing you to pause your subscription or choose duo or group plans to share the experience. From exploring new places to serious training, Rouvy has something for every cyclist. Ready to ride the world? Visit rouvy.com and start your journey today.
6. Good job. Okay, next question. Anthony, settle a bet between myself and my training buddy. We seem to get these settle a bet ones every single week as well. He says,
one of them as well
is there? He says VO2 max intervals are the key to getting faster, but I think focusing on threshold work gives better long-term results. Can you explain the difference between the two things for people who don't know, VO2 and threshold?
It's just two different zones, two different adaptations. So you're like VO2 max, depending how you're setting your zones. If you use the Roadman zones we use, it'll be a zone 5 effort. You were doing VO2 sessions during the week. Classic VO2 session, it'd be 4-minute effort, 6-minute off, 4-minute effort, 6-minute off. Do it 3 or 4 times. They're pretty hard. You're going 9 out of 10 effort. Can't really go much harder for them. Threshold stuff is typically steadier state where you could do that for 20 minutes, like 2x20, your typical threshold session, but you might get 2x40. You could graduate up to a threshold, or you see, I used to do that session happy hour where I just do an hour sitting on my FTP for the hour and then warm down after it. So if you're getting ready for time trials and stuff like that, it's just a totally different physiological adaptation to each one of those. Like VO2 max intervals, they are important for like improving your body's ability to take in and utilize oxygen at high intensities, and they're great for boosting like peak aerobic power and increasing your maximum sustainable effort for a short burst. Like if a brake has gone clear, like there's 2 ways to get into the brake, I suppose, in a bike race. You're like kind of contrarian aggressive. As soon as someone jumps, you're in their wheel, but you never know which one is going clear. So you're following multiple moves all the time and trying to surf into these wheels. There's a bit of position to stay at the front of the group to be able to jump into all these wheels. Or if you're going super well, times where I've had good form, or I've seen teammates who are going have good form, they don't follow any of those moves. They wait till the move establishes itself at 35, 40 seconds and it looks like it's the one. And then they'll VO2 max effort to ride across to that. So they'll ride across inside 4 or 5 minutes to the break. So they're riding huge non-sustainable power to get there and then recovering when they get there. But they're two different tools inside a toolbox. It depends what your goal is. If your goal is road racing, you're going to need a mix of the two. If you're only doing pursuiting, which is a 4-kilometer effort, you're only really going to need high 4-minute power. And if you're steadier state time trial hill climber, you might need to focus more on your like deteriorate specificity. It's a hard word to say. It's the idea that as you get closer to an event, the demands you're trying to mimic the demands of the event closer and closer. So we talked about you for Badlands, and we were chatting with a friend and a coach this morning, and he was saying as he got closer to Badlands, he started stacking his week. Instead of riding his 15 hours maybe spread across 7 days, he started getting his 15 hours spread across Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to mimic the demands as he got closer. Yep. It's the same type thing, so you can't really answer the question what's better. It's just like they're two different tools. Which
is better at getting faster? Yeah, I totally get you.
Well, it's better at just speed. It's VO2.
It's VO2. Okay.
It's a higher zone.
Okay, next question. Hey Anthony, I'm getting a new gravel bike and want to know what gear ratio I should go with. Can you break it down really simply for me? My eyes usually start to mist over when people start talking about 5211s, etc. But I know that this is going to be an important decision. I've loads of gravel events coming up, a few local here in the UK, and I'm doing the Rift in July.
Okay, so I've been using SRAM for the last few years. I think go SRAM for me if you're doing these events. I say that only from experience because I rode Badlands, was it 3 years ago, on your Canyon with Shimano Di2. Actually, I had it in Rift as well
Yeah,
that
both.
year.
2 years.
Two
Two
problems
times.
with it. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm such an advocate for SRAM now. Went through the first river crossing at Rift with the Di2 from Shimano and it just dead. And ended up having to do single speed for the rest of it. And Badlands, I hit a bump and the solder came off the battery in the C-post. And obviously in the middle of nowhere, I couldn't resolder the battery on. And yeah.
That was your Badlands done.
Badlands done.
Even though you trained for months ahead of it. So,
Nightmare.
yeah.
So I've been SRAM since and absolutely loved it. So in terms of gearing, I'm actually changing up my gravel bike in the next few weeks. So I'm exploring gearing myself at the moment. So on the rear, I'm going to go with a one by because there's a lot less trouble on a one by, and we're going to put you roughly on the same system, Sarah. So I'm going to go with a huge spread on the back, like a 1046 on the back.
So a huge spread on the back, 1046, means that this guy is going to have loads of gears for climbing.
Yeah, loads
Is that
of gears
right?
for climbing.
Loads of
well,
gears
the
for
ratio
climbing.
of front to back determines that. So on the front, I'll probably go with like a 46 chainring on the back, depending, what sort of rider he is, how strong he is. You can go anything from a 40 to a 48, maybe 46 is probably loads, but 48 on the front. Like a 4810 is a really solid gear to push if you're out, you want to go on a group ride or you want to show some road wheels on your gravel bike and rip it up outside. It's a big gear in terms of rollout. If you go onto that Sheldon Brown website, he has the gear rollout calculator and you'll see how big a gear it is. I can't remember off the top of my head if it's bigger than a 5311, but it's comparable size. Someone will tell me down below rollout inches. And then having that 46 on the back gives you a lot of spinning for going up hills. Like if you can't go up a hill on your 46 on the back, the next step up from that's like a ladder or a ski lift.
Yeah, okay. So these are kind of going into like almost like mountain bike gearings.
Yes, you've gone one by with the stuff now, so it's it does feel very mountain bikey. Where I would have started out on just like say an 1121 when I was on the road, so it's like 10 gears that are just straight through. But there's much bigger spreads now, and you need it for one bike because you don't have that ability to go.
So when you talk about much better spreads, the two things that I'm concerned about as somebody who knows nothing about this is, will I have enough gears for getting up steep climbs? And then when I'm coming down, am I going to run out of gears really, really quickly and just have to kind of freewheel down and then get dropped by everyone on the descent?
No, well, that's what I mean. Like you've the 10 and your 46 is a huge spread on both sides.
So it's going to cover everything.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So that's your recommendation for this?
Yeah, that's what I'd be going with. I think it's solid.
Okay, amazing. Okay, next question. Hi, Anthony and Sarah. I listened to your Majorca is Dead episode and you inspired me to go outside of my comfort zone and travel to newer destinations this year. You didn't actually say which destinations you guys are going to. Could be interesting to maybe tag along. I'm a long-time listener and a long-time fan, James.
We're going to go to Vegas for our first one, are we?
Viva Las Vegas. I don't know, James. Do you want to come on that? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
But are we going to do a meetup? We're going to Roadman ride the day before or something?
Yes, we are. So we're going to try and get as many roadmen over to this as possible. It's going to be an amazing event. The day before, we're hoping to run a meetup and ride part of the course together. The roads won't be closed for that, but on the day, the roads are going to be 100% fully closed, very, very safe. The ride actually takes us through Red Rock Canyon National Conservation Area. That's one of the most beautiful places.
Well, Mick and Jared, the two pilots that we are in the club, they fly into Vegas a lot, and they were saying that Red Rock national place is unbelievable.
Stunning. These are pilots who travel and ride their bikes all over the world, and they are going to come and do this ride with us as well. And there's going to be this also kind of like a village area where we're going to meet everyone. It's called Downtown Summerlin, and that's where everyone's going to hang out and maybe have a couple of beers after, and we'll be there to say hello to everyone.
A couple of beers after, I say I'll be in the casino and miss the event. I've actually never been to Vegas.
Option. You've never been to Vegas?
No, I want to play cards.
Yeah, I've been to Vegas, and I didn't bring a bike, let me tell you that. This is going to be a very different trip for me. That was party Sarah. This is fitness Sarah, but
I'm in party mode, so I'm going like casino. But there's all shows and stuff in Vegas as well. Oh yeah,
David Guetta is playing when we're going to be over there.
Jeez, so I hope you run to see that.
You wouldn't?
David Guetta,
that's going to be amazing. What are you talking about? You want to go and see Pink or maybe Adele or whoever is...
Straight up gangster.
But yes, I cannot wait for that. We also have a link if you want a little bit of a discount, Roadman 20. I'm going to put that in the show notes. Reach out to me directly on Twitter, Instagram, if you have any questions about it or any worries about it as well. As I said, it's a really safe event. It's run by the TAP series, and it's just so professionally done. It's going to be absolutely epic, and we're going to be doing more of these events throughout the year, so we'll keep you posted on all of those as well.
We are so excited to announce that we are partnering with Whoop. Whoop are changing the game when it comes to wearable technology and health monitoring. Whoop is a wearable health and fitness coach that provides you with feedback and actionable insights into your sleep, your recovery, your training, your stress, and your overall health. Sarah and I have been using Whoop for years, and we love the insights it provides into our body's inner workings. It really gives us a look under the hood. And you're going to see Mathieu van der Poel, Richard Carapaz, and other elite level cyclists wearing Whoop, but it isn't just for those superstars. All the data is personalised to your unique physiology and fitness levels. If you're interested in taking control of your health and your fitness so that you can excel in all aspects of your life, you have to go and check out Whoop. Go to the URL now, which is join.whoop.com/roadman. I'm going to pop that in the description below, and you're going to get a free month's access to Whoop membership on me. Promise you won't regret it.
Okay, next question. Anthony, can you help settle a bet? Another one. He insists...
Must be the Vegas team.
Maybe. He insists indoor training sessions are more effective for fitness gains. But I think long, steady outdoor rides are where it's at. What's the verdict? You like indoor, don't you? I mean, if we're talking about fitness gains, not social, not, the camaraderie that comes with
like, I don't like indoor. Like... If you're to just say, like, do you want to ride indoors or outdoors? I want to ride outdoors. But if you're looking for a physiological adaptation and you only have, like, most of us don't have access to an amazing training road right on our doorstep. There's a bit of slobbing through traffic lights and bike paths to get to somewhere you can actually train. So if you've like an hour to do, 90 minutes to do, you're almost always better doing that indoors to get bang for the buck. Like indoor sessions are going to be much more controllable, which is going to make that time spent much more efficient. You can much easier regulate your power. So if you have a specific effort to do, like one of my favorite sessions to give clients, like a Tabata effort, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, like full gas 20 seconds on. Very hard to get the terrain outside to go full for 20 seconds, then recover for 10 and then go full for 20 when you're worried about cars and stuff. So if you're looking to control intensity, focus on a structured workout, like do those shorter style intervals, or even anything up to, I'd say, a threshold interval. It's just any interval almost is easier to do indoors than outdoors. Now, is it as enjoyable? That's another debate. I think if you're riding long, steady endurance stuff, like there's no comparison. You need to get outside and hang with friends, and also you need to learn how to dress, corner in the rain. Like, you know, cycling's an outdoor sport. It's not an indoor sport, but there's huge benefits for indoor sessions for specific intervals. Yeah. Like if you're just looking physiological, bang for the buck, indoor is where it's at. Like, yeah.
Okay, Anthony, I've seen a few ads pop up for oversized ceramic jockey wheels. Is this something I need? What's the benefits?
Definitely not something you need. No. I think you're trying to sell yourself on that one.
I have seen these as well, like the ceramic speed.
Cycling ceramic and ceramic speeds are two of the big. They're marginal. they've done an amazing job of signaling speed, like, because they've made them big, bold, and colors. So it's like your way of like flying a flag and saying, it's like your virtue signaling almost, where you're like, I care about the detail, I care about speed. But in terms of like the actual difference they make, it's quite minimum. So the kind of theory with them is, you'll have seen the, like, you know what I'm talking about, the big oversized things. So they pair oversized jockey wheels or pulley wheels with ceramic bearings. That's really their stick. You pair the two of those together, and that is designed to reduce friction over traditional steel bearings. So they have that lower friction, which means there's less energy in the whole drivetrain system needed to power it all. And theoretically, this is going to make you a little bit more efficient, especially at higher speeds. The larger jockey wheels also allow for a smoother chain line, which in theory could improve drivetrain efficiency also, and shifting performance, particularly under load. Some people report better power transfer with the reduced friction and smoother chain management system. But it's all very, very marginal. Like, should you get them? They look cool.
I was going to say, do they look, is it something that you see on a bike and you're like,
they look
that's kind of savage.
Cool, they look really cool, especially if you, like, you know, if you have them paired with a really nice group set, like a SRAM Red group set, and them is like,
sleek.
You know, it's cool. Like, it's really cool. But in terms
and I think
of,
if you're buying yourself this level of detail, your bike is probably immaculate. Like, if you're going down to that type of, you know, nitty gritty on your bike, everything else is probably pretty well kept, looks absolutely gorgeous. So are you suggesting that this listener gets one?
If, like, nobody needs them, but if you have spare cash and you want to splash
trick out your bike,
they're a nice little upgrade.
Okay. Hi Anthony and Sarah. I can handle headwinds and tailwinds just fine, but crosswinds absolutely destroy me. I either get pushed all over the road or end up working way harder than I should. What's the best way to stay in control and be more efficient when riding in strong crosswinds? Any tips for positioning in a group? This is like the $600 million question as well. This is something I very much struggle with, crosswinds.
I think one of the tips is, like, back to what we were saying at the start, for newbie mistakes, it's just locking out and being too tense in it. You want to keep your body as relaxed as possible and avoid fighting the wind. So instead of gripping the handlebars tightly, focus on having that lighter grip, maybe slightly wider on the bars to give you, like, I think if you're super narrow on the bars, that feels quite unstable as it is, and allow your bike and your body to move under it like you're, you know, a balloon just getting blown around in the wind. Don't fight it. I think also you can position yourself on the bike to counter the wind. Like, if the wind is coming off your left shoulder, you want to be slightly leaning into the wind as well. I think that's going to help with balance, and it's going to prevent you from being blown off course. And then in terms of, like, road position, if you don't want to be, like, leaving yourself in the gutter, or you don't want to be, depending on which way the wind's coming from. So if the wind is coming from your right and you're in, again, depending on what country you're in, but say you're in a country where you're riding on the right hand side of the road, so you're in the right hand gutter and the wind is coming off your left shoulder, you don't want to be right at the edge of the gutter, because if there is a gust, there's nowhere for you to go. You haven't got a foot where you can go with the wind. You're going to fall off the edge of the cliff or off the edge of the road. So you want to position yourself, in that case, further left in the road, so you can take a little bit of a swerve, a little bit of a sway. And likewise, you don't want to be positioning yourself too far out onto the road, that if the wind's coming from the other direction, the wind blows you into a passing car that's trying to, you know, pass you with, you know, a meter to spare, and now all of a sudden you're blown into that meter. So giving yourself the whole road, or as much of the road as possible, and that could be taking lanes as well, which, you know, I'm a big fan of controlling the lane if there's traffic behind and I don't think it's safe for a car to pass. I'll take that decision out of their hands, and I'll say, I'm taking the whole lane. If you're going to go around me, you're going to overtake me like you're overtaking a tractor, not like you're overtaking a cyclist. And then I think the last one is, like, you know, the idea of, like, the leeward side, the sheltered side on the group spin. Just moving, like if you're moving up to do a turn, so many groups get this wrong. So many breaks get this wrong in races. You're coming through to do turns. You're coming through on the sheltered side to do a turn. So if you're struggling, you're positioning yourself on the sheltered side.
Yeah.
On the coast road is a great example for us coming home.
Yeah, that is the thing, isn't it? It's positioning helps so much. I know that you gave me a couple of great tips because I'm never really quite sure where to position myself and am I in the correct spot. Like if we're riding in a crosswind, I will usually try and position my handlebars kind of where your hip is.
That's the best way, because then if I swerve, which I'm going to in the wind, my hip is going to come along and hit your bars, not my mech going into your front spokes.
Yeah, so that's kind of the way I do. And when I'm doing that or trying to get into this really sheltered position, I'm looking at my watts and even though I'm going the same speed, I'm keeping up with Anthony, I can tell straight away that my watts have dropped because I'm not putting as much effort out because I'm in the optimum sheltered position.
Yeah, but also what you don't do well with it still at the moment is you do position yourself quite well, but you still ride in the hoods on it.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas you're more stable in the drops.
The other thing I will say that I have learned about riding in crosswinds is keep pedaling. I find that if I'm maybe not so much in a group, because I'm always pedaling if I'm in a group or I'm a little bit more sheltered, if I'm out on my own and I'm freewheeling in a crosswind, you just don't have as much control over the bike.
Just don't freewheel ever.
Don't freewheel ever. Yes,
no, don't freewheel
And
ever.
then the other thing that I will say is, Anthony, we've come across this a few times. I know you're a little bit like, oh, how's that happen? But people who have like the deep rim, the deep set wheels, and they're finding it a little bit harder to control their bike in crosswinds and stuff. Change your wheels. So that's.
I don't know. Like,
I know that you're never impressed with someone who has deep wheels and can't handle their bike. I'm kind of with you. I'm like, you should be able to have the strength to handle your bike.
Like, it's not that much of a difference. It's marginal. Like, you know, everyone has deep-ish wheels now. No one's riding, you know, Open Pro box rims anymore. So everyone's riding like 40 mil deep zips at a minimum. Like, so.
But it is something to think about for this listener, that it's something he's struggling with, maybe.
Yeah, but he's unlikely on 80 mil deep rims. You don't see them that often unless he's a triathlete or something like that. So I'd say if it's 40, 50 mil, like, you don't need to worry about changing your wheels. Just focus on the other tips.
Okay. Do we have time for another question?
Sure, yeah, we'll roll in one more.
Okay, Anthony, what exactly do you do when you get home from a spin? I need a really clear system. Do I need protein straight away, or do I shower first? Do I stretch? Do I need more electrolytes? Do I clean my bike? Break it down for me like I'm a toddler.
You need to just take that intensity down and just relax.
Okay, what happens to us when we come back is we have two dogs staring at us. So Anthony and I then go into negotiation phase about who's taking the dogs out. So that's step one for us.
If you're doing ideal, he seems really into this question. So if you're going ideal scenario, what's it look like? Not saying I do this ideal, but this is ideal.
I'll call you out here if you catch the line.
Ideally you want to come in and you don't want to have to deal with your chain rusting up and seizing the next day. So if you can come in and wipe the dirt off your chain and lube it before you even put the bike in the shed or in the hall or wherever, that's a good start. Then I think, you don't need protein. What you need is carbohydrates. So you want to be having carbs to protein in a 4-to-1 ratio. So you can make that up yourself, like Yuri Carlson talks in the podcast that we had with her about making, literally eyeballing it, scoop of protein, handful of berries, squirt of honey, so you're 4 parts carbohydrates to 1 part protein. But I just think chocolate milk, it's balanced 4-to-1. There's commercial recovery drinks you can do as well, but I don't know, I never find them as nice as chocolate milk.
They don't taste as nice. Yeah,
there used to be Lion Bar one, which is lovely from Power Bar, but I don't know if they make it anymore. But chocolate milk's lovely. So I'd have that straight away, literally just neck it, then into the shower. And then as soon as you get out of the shower, I used to get into a set of, I'm not even sure if they make them anymore, skins, like it was a compression clothing. I used to put them on, not really for the recovery compression benefits, more because they were just like really cozy and they made you feel good after training. Hydration is then kind of my focus for the next rest of the evening, really, where I'm sipping on electrolytes, trying to get back any fluids I might have lost. And within 60 to 90 minutes, you're probably looking to have a hot meal that's like macro balanced. Again, just topping up that, you're in that glycogen replenishment or glycogen reuptake window where your body is more sensitive for reabsorbing glycogen than it will be later in the day. So I used to be really strict on that, but I think if you just get in, have the chocolate milk straight away, that's a lot of the good work done. And then you have your balanced meal, or might be a tuna salad or something in the next 60 to 90 minutes, you're pretty much set. And then rest of the evening, I think if you could do a little bit of stretching, a little bit of foam rolling or trigger point therapy, something like that, it's a good little benefit. And then rinse and repeat, you're getting your kit ready for the next day.
Yeah, exactly. And like if you're coming in, and we had a question from a listener a couple of weeks ago saying that he couldn't wind down after a spin. He was training in the evenings and he was finding it hard to sleep then. If you're coming in later in the evening and you're finding that your spin is going to affect how you relax for the rest of the week, that stretching, maybe some mindfulness meditation, try and get the parasympathetic nervous system firing back up and relax kind of all of those fight or flight feelings that you've had on the spin. That can be really, really good as well. And as we said earlier, stick on the cycling racing and relax.
I think that's it. Job's a good one. Roadman, thank you for tuning in to another Roadman podcast. There's another interview up here which you will enjoy, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you're feeling very generous, you could share it with your friends into your club WhatsApp group. See you next day.